Trump continues to threaten Western Europe and Greenland and the NATO alliance over the fact that they won't obey his orders to kneel and follow his plan to protect themselves from Russian aggression. Now, this has never made any sense at all. They're allies. We know we could just call them up on the phone and say, hey, Russia's planning such and such. Now let's all get together and stop it, right? Anyway, I was thinking about it and it suddenly hit me yesterday that obviously it's not about what he says it's about. And as always, it's about the exact opposite. I think he has a very sinister plan going into this, and he has a plan that's the exact opposite of what he's saying, as always, right? But first, just let's catch up real quick on what's gone on recently. Over the weekend, protests were all over Scandinavia and Greenland, Denmark, and I believe Finland. Thousands of people have protested against plans by Trump to take over Greenland, the autonomous Danish territory. From the BBC, demonstrations were held in Danish cities, including the capital, Copenhagen, as well as Greenland's capital. The rallies coincide with a visit to Copenhagen by a delegation from the U.S. Congress. Trump hasn't ruled out taking Greenland by force, which he insists is critical for America's national security, and he has now announced he will impose tariffs on European countries that are opposed to his plan. I mean, just think about that for a minute. When you threaten someone, are they your friends or your enemies? And when you say someone's your friend, but you threaten them, you don't need, with friends like that, you don't need enemies, right? But on Sunday, he had the weirdest, most bizarre, crazy, infantile, childlike text message war with the Prime Minister of Norway and the President of Finland. And these messages help reveal the backbone of what I think his most nefarious plan is. Check out what he said here, and then I'll tell you what I believe is really going on. And I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, you guys probably figured it out already a long time ago. But look at this bizarre text message string that they had with each other over the weekend. So the Prime Minister of Norway and President of Finland wrote to him, and they said, "Dear Mr. President, dear Donald," I mean, I guess they're trying to butter him up. On the contact across the Atlantic, on Greenland, Gaza, Ukraine, and your tariff announcement yesterday, you know our position on these issues, but we believe we should all work together to take this down and de escalate. So much is happening around us where we need to stand together. We're proposing a call with you later today with both of us or separately. Give us a hint of what you prefer. Best, Alex and Jonas. So listen what Trump writes back. And just think to yourself, is this a man you're proud to have representing your country? He's writing back in your name and in my name. He's writing back in the name of Americans. And he sounds like a 3-year-old. He says, Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, are you kidding? For having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer, let me just stop there. I guarantee you, if you asked him to name the 8 wars, he could probably only name 3 of them. And the rest of them, he has no idea what he's talking about. He has not stopped 8 wars. There weren't even 8 wars to stop. And the main war that he promised to stop, the war in Ukraine, he's done literally nothing but make it worse. But he says, considering your country, first of all, the country doesn't give the Nobel Peace Prize. That's given by a private organization. Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant. Okay, you know what? This is like people when they're already going to do they're already going to do something bad, but then they turn it around and blame it on you, like a narcissist, just like a narcissist. Blame it on you. I was going to have peace with you people up until you deny me the Nobel Prize. Yeah, right. Like it's their fault, really. No, not buying it. Nobody's buying it, of course. But he says he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace because he didn't feel that in the first place ever, although it will always be predominant. And then he says, but I can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America, which is what he was already doing. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? Why? I'm the one who decides. I'm the king of the world. You have no right to your country because I declare it. I, King Don. There are no written documents. Not true. And I'll show you in a minute. He says there are no written documents between you and Greenland to cause there to be any kind of legal, relationship between the two countries. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. Talk about supreme gaslighting. This guy's a master at gaslighting. He's done more for NATO? Are you kidding? He's done more to destroy NATO, and he's continuing to do that. Wow. He says the world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. Why? What does that mean? Why do we need complete and total control? They're already our allies. You just pick up the phone and tell them what you need. You need another base? Tell them you need another military base. They're okay with that. They've said they're okay with that. We've had bases there. We've had dozens of bases there in the past. We have one base there now, the space base, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first, he tells us there's no written agreement between Denmark and Greenland, and that there's nothing that's valid that gives them any kind of legal relationship with each other. Totally false. Absolutely false. It's as false as his claim that Ukraine started the war with Russia, and it's as false as his claim that he won the 2020 election, and it's as false as his lie that January 6th wasn't an attempted insurrection directed by him. Here's some quick facts, and use these on your MAGA friends. Stuff their minds with a little truthful information. Greenland is officially an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. The status is not informal. It's set out in Danish law, and it's in the Greenland Constitution, and it's acknowledged and agreed to by the international community. The core legal basis today is the Greenland Self-Government Act of 2009, which recognizes Greenland as a distinct people with the right to self-determination and the right to declare independence through a future negotiated agreement. However, Denmark retains sovereignty over foreign affairs, so Greenland is in charge of its internal affairs, but Denmark retains sovereignty over its foreign affairs, its defense, and its currency until full independence is achieved. In other words, Greenland has wide autonomy on domestic issues, but remains formally a part of the Kingdom of Denmark under Danish sovereignty and under Danish law, and with agreement with the Greenland people. So here's my theory. I think he's up to something completely nefarious. He's telling us that he's doing this to fight off the Russian threat, right? But think about it. There is no Russian threat. There are no Russian warships around Greenland. There are no Russian military aircraft, flying over the area. And the NATO allies have always been aware of this generalized threat from Russia. And that's what we've always worked together to prevent anything from happening from a Russian threat. And we already have a military base in Greenland, a space base, which serves as an early missile warning and space surveillance system. And Greenland and Denmark would happily give us more bases if we would only ask nicely. That's all we got to do. Seriously, you have a friend, all you got to do is pick up the phone, call. They said, call us, we'll talk today, and tell them what you need. These are friendly nations. They're Western nations. And they would say, sure, absolutely, let's do it. But he starts going off with all these threats. I'm going to buy you, and if you won't sell yourself to me, I will invade you. I'm really glad to see the European nations taking this seriously and sending troops and and equipment over there already. I mean, I don't want I never thought I would encourage a war against my country. But if we do something like try to invade Greenland, I want them to fight back because we shouldn't be doing that. We have no business doing that. So, yeah, I want them to fight back. I'm not going to feel all patriotic and suddenly rush to Trump's side and say, yeah, I support my president. How can you support a president when he leads you into a war like that against your friends? That's crazy, right? Look, we know that if Trump truly believed there was some specific Russian threat right now, that all he'd have to do is pick up the phone and call and ask for help, and it would be there. The nations of NATO would happily oblige because that's what we do. That's what the NATO alliance is all about. So it's obvious that protecting Greenland from Russia and China are the last things on his mind. I mean, since when has he been interested in Russian threats? Look at how he's treated Ukraine. He's done everything in his power to hand over half of Ukraine to Russia without another shot being fired. I mean, he's told Ukraine they have to give up every inch of territory the Russians now occupy. He's weakened sanctions on Russia. And we have a set of stronger sanctions in place ready to go, but he's refused to invoke them. So, why is he suddenly so concerned about the Russian threat when it comes to the Arctic? Doesn't make any sense, right? None of this is making any sense to me. But then I thought about it and I realized if you're thinking like a rational and moral human being, of course it doesn't make sense. If you think like an irrational person who loves Russia, who loves authoritarian systems, who wants to be a dictator, then suddenly it makes all the sense in the world. Check this out. Let me know what you think. If you want to hold off Russia, what do? You go and choke Russia, right? With things like stronger sanctions, with things like telling them you're going to build up Ukraine's defenses so strong that Ukraine can finally retake all the land Russia has stolen from them. But that's not what we're doing. It's not what we're doing at all. In fact, he's not even threatening Russia at all. He's threatening our allies. He's threatening Europe and he's threatening Greenland, our allies. Instead of putting sanctions and tariffs on Russia, he's going to put tariffs on our best friends. And he says this is all about keeping Russia out of Greenland. But the people he's willing to fight are Greenlanders and NATO members? That doesn't make any sense, right? If you're all about keeping Russia out, you fight Russia. You don't fight your friends. He hasn't even made a single threatening remark to Putin about staying away from Greenland, but he's threatened Greenland and Europe with all kinds of serious consequences. So, what is he using Russia as the excuse to do? Isn't he using Russia as the excuse to destroy NATO? That we know. We know he's wanted to destroy NATO from his first term when he tried to do it. If he was truly worried about Russian expansionism in the Arctic, he'd be out pounding the table on Russia and putting threats and demands on them and strengthening sanctions against them. But no, he's not doing that, is he? He's out pounding the table against NATO and against Greenland, and he's directing all of his threats towards our friends. He's even going so far as to literally threaten a military invasion of our NATO ally, Greenland and Denmark. And like the European leaders know, if he does that, it would literally destroy NATO. So think about it. The end result of what he's doing would be not the keeping of Russia out of Greenland, but it would be the destruction of NATO. It would be the biggest gift Putin will ever get. So if you stop believing his lying tongue for a minute, but pay attention to what he's doing, that's what becomes glaringly obvious. He's out to destroy NATO. And I'll say this to the MAGA people who are keeping him in power: stop being so gullible. Stop being a sheep. Stop believing everything you're told. Question everyone in power. Remember when you used to call us the sheeple? Well, now it's you. Donald Trump is a not so secret ally of Russia. He's not an ally to our friends. And he's doing everything in his power to not only weaken, but to literally destroy the Western alliance that has stood so strong against Russia and kept Russia in its place since the end of World War II. And you didn't want Kamala in office because you said she was a communist. You hated Joe Biden because you said he was a communist. Now, your man is embracing and doing everything in his grasp to make the biggest communists on planet Earth more powerful, to give him more land, to give him more resources. You guys are now actually the ones who are supporting true communism. Wasn't us. Some of you have been tricked, I know, but some of you wanted this. Some of you want an authoritarian leader who puts down the people you hate. But you know what? It's going to come for all of us soon. It's not going to, this hurts everybody in the end. Look at all these communist nations, how they've all become third world countries, and people are desperate to get out of there. Why do you think we have so many people wanting to immigrate here all the time? You're going to turn this into that kind of nation, and you're going to want out of this country. You're going to be going north to Canada. Anyway, let's all keep speaking out and speaking up and speaking out. I'm convinced that it's going to take a lot, millions of truth tellers around the country, just little people who nobody knows, speaking out on social media, but speaking with confidence and speaking with truth to get this whole thing overturned. That's what we got to do. All right, let's keep at it. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a like or a subscribe or both. That would be cool. It'd be great to have you on board. And I will talk to you soon.